I discovered the Beck Cultural Center here in Knoxville shortly after I came into town in the fall of 2021. As I walk through the former house and home that today is the Black Museum and Cultural Center for Knoxville, Tennessee, I was taken by some paintings I saw on a wall in one of the rooms. I loved the representation of nature in these paintings. Some of them were very simple landscapes. Others were more different, and still others were even differenter. But they were all sort of paintings of nature and the natural world. And I was taken by them. I was impressed with them. They went from the very simple to the much more abstract and unique. They were all painted by one woman, Ruth Cobb Brice. Now, Ruth Cobb Brice was born in Knoxville in 1899, and she was extremely well educated, having attended Swift Memorial College and Knoxville College, two historic black colleges during her years. She taught for close to 50 years here in Knoxville, Knox County. Besides painting, she was also probably the first published black female author here in Knoxville. So, having died in 1971, I wanted to pay my respects to Ruth Cobb Brice. So I headed out to find her at Crestview Cemetery in Westview last week. Crestview Cemetery here in Westview. Right across from the Westview Park and some Reverend's Greenway there. Reverend something's Greenway. This is Crestview Park. Well, yeah. It's actually, from all I'm hearing about this place, it's as early as the park cemeteries. This land dates as a cemetery to the park cemeteries, much like the Old Gray Cemetery, Pioneer Cemetery in Knoxville, and the Oddfellow Cemetery, and yada yada yada. Westview Cemeteries. I am in search today of Ruth Cobb Brice, Knoxville artist, who I was told, or not told actually, who I found on the internet to be buried at Crestview Cemetery here. They seem to have like a whole bunch of cemeteries here. At Westview. Historic cemetery district, all right? Crestview is where Ruth Cobb Brice is supposedly buried. And yeah, let me find her and pay my respects to that great artist of unheralded artist, I might say, of Knoxville, Tennessee. And yeah, and then I'll check out the other cemeteries around here. Yeah, let me check. Let me find Ruth, and then I'll catch up with you down the road. Well, I seem to have come to the end of the road here at Crestview, and no luck. With Ruth Cobb Brice. The circular drive in the front there. Just nothing. What complicates my search is from the picture I saw of her grave on Find a Grave. Her stone is like that. It's flat, you know, so it doesn't stand out, you know. So how that complicates, you know, a searcher such as I without a map to her grave. It just makes it that much more difficult and complicated, and you end up having to go to every stone in the freaking cemetery here at Crestview to find her. And you know, I am convinced she is not here. Now, I don't know, you know, it's but I have gone through the stones here, and there is nothing that I found for Ruth. You know, it looks like other roads to other parts, and maybe other parts of this area here, this, you know, this historic cemetery district. Looks like a lot of roads were started here, but none were finished to connect the cemeteries together. So what I'm going to do is check in the other 2 or 3 cemeteries that are along here, along the road, out in front here, and see if perhaps Ruth might be for what the information I found on Find a Grave was wrong. And, so, yeah, so, that's what I will do next. See if she's at the other cemeteries along the road here, or the path here, or, boy, I'm sure glad I didn't bring my pickup truck today. I tell you, it's a rough and rugged road. Or my horse carriage, maybe. I'd probably have better footing along here than I would. All right, further up the road, I must say, this Westview is a lot of new homes. You see a lot of, and rehabbed homes, restored homes. It is quite a very fresh and new community here. Much like Mechanicsville. The neighbors next door. All right, I am at the Southern Chain Cemetery, right next to the Crestview Cemetery. Now, here's a sticker with this. I found on the net that there was one map, maybe through Find a Grave, where Ruth Cobb Brice was buried like right across from that church. But the location is the Southern Chain Cemetery. With seemingly more difficult roads to follow, or trails. Again, I'm glad I didn't bring my pickup. Then the Crestview Cemetery next door. Now, the indicator they had on this map I saw for Ruth Cobb Brice was right around in here, the Southern Chain Cemetery. But, I mean, kind of miss the, the rugged road of Crestview here at the Southern Chain. Okay, and yeah. And also, it seems like it's going to be much more difficult. I mean, complaining about what I find in Crestview, this is a bit more overgrown, and seemingly makes it a lot more difficult to spot anything. Besides trash here. At this cemetery here. So, All right, one more, and that is that's the Longview Cemetery, which is the oldest of the cemeteries here in this burial district here in Westview. Let me check that out. All right. And now the last cemetery in this whole sort of, no, these are not gardeners. The last cemetery in this historic district here, the Longview Cemetery, which is a whole part of this ever-growing jungle here in Westview. This is the oldest of the 4 cemeteries, 3 in this big chunk of property here. All right, so just, you know, it's one of the, you know, I've been to cemeteries before where I've searched. I'll give you an example. I was at the Granary Cemetery. The Granary Cemetery, downtown Boston. And it is where John Hancock is buried, downtown Boston. And Phyllis Wheatley, the black poet, former slave, was buried there. So I went to find her grave when I was in Boston. And I'm looking and I'm looking. And I'm seeing all these great, you know, Americans and names I recognize, you know, but no Phyllis Wheatley. Okay? So they had landscapers on the ground, you know, from the Boston parks or wherever. And I asked the guys, I said, where's Phyllis Wheatley buried? Black poet. I don't know. John Hancock's over there. All right. So I couldn't find her. And I finally gave up. You know, I got my pictures of all the, you know, noted people there. And I left, but it stayed on my mind. And this is the hill I'm climbing. But later, I looked up her grave, you know, on the internet. I Googled her grave, probably the next day, and I found out that Phyllis Wheatley is no longer buried there. Her grave had been moved from the Granary Cemetery in Boston to a place where, you know, women of the diaspora only know. So, you know, she was gone. So it's happened before that, you know, you can look and look, but they could have moved, you know. Yeah, so, and I have a tendency not to believe that. With Ruth Cobb Brice, because she is certainly, of, no universal, historic significance of Phyllis Wheatley. But the principle is just the same in a way, and I would like to think that, maybe they moved her grave to a more prominent place, a more prominent cemetery, a new home. My, look at this. I am up the hill here among a bunch of beautiful churches and homes here. My. Watch your step up, right? To the homeowners. Oh my. Wow. Myrick. Family obviously tried. Oh, wow. So sad. Oh, well, hey. My. Oh, that's it. Oh, here's a kicker. Mary Elizabeth Myrick. Obviously the old lady to old man Myrick. And she may be having the last laugh here because her grave is right outside the door of old man Myrick, I guess. Her grave's intact. Kids had no problem with her tombstone or her burial site. God knows where the body of her old man is at today. I love it. I'll meet you in hell. Watch your step getting off here. All right. All right. Up we go. There's got to be like an entrance here somewhere along the road. I'll catch you up at the top of the rise. All right, top of the hill. And Longview Cemetery. That's interesting, you know. It's all padlocked up, and that road looks better than any road here in the cemetery district I found. And the yard looks pretty well kept up too. Yeah, let me check this out. Yeah. Oh, looky there. All right, glad I didn't bring my pickup truck. Now, let's screw that. All right, let me have a look around at I'll let you know what's going on. Oh my. Bridges and turns in the road are very significant to anybody who has traveled this country. Look at, oh my. You know, you have this real nice sort of welcoming Longview Cemetery here. All right, and it's I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, let's give it a look-see. I did not get to even the bend in the road here along, well, what should be a road or trail, whatever. I didn't even get to the bend before once again I run into the jungle and the forest and graves, you know, just swallowed up by the wilds here. Oh my, you know, it's you know, I was thinking I got to the top there, I'm thinking, no, okay, here's something else I can work with here. But no, it's like, you know, you come around that bend at the top of the hill and, you know, it turns to a trash pile. It turns to the city freaking dump here at Longview Cemetery in Westview. I mean, look, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up. There's stones, back, there's a stone, you know, there's a stone, okay, oh, there's a more visible stone, okay, if you can get through the branches here. I will say though, boys, that the road here kind of is much better than at Crestview. It's less rutted. If you can somehow get around that gate there. But you know, if you've come to dump or party or, you know, whatever, you know, but for find a grave, yeah, it's just it's sad. All right. And some of these are pretty current. I mean, they're not, these are graves not from, like, you know, the 19th century. Some of these are very current. And, wow. Why anyone would want to be buried in here, you know, and it's tragic. Those that are, because no one, whether family, friends, or community, is looking after this cemetery district here in Westview. Look at that. I wonder if that happened, you know, at Crestview, and he just brought it up here for the party and just decided to take it off, buy a new one when we got home. Look at this. I will tell you. Look at that. Party. This is the oldest of the the historic black cemeteries here in this Westview Cemetery District. And it looks it. I'll tell you. Wow. Obviously the neighborhood fort for the kids, or the neighborhood drive-through. I don't know what, you know, it's, used to be barns, for some, here in the South. You get the old man's barn, at least famed in film and song. Somebody goes out to the barn, have the rave, the party, but drive out there to the swimming hole. And while I'm on the subject of swimming holes, Mead's Quarry. Yes, at Imes Nature Center. That had to be kind of dug out of the filth and the slop and the ruins of neighborhood kids. That too was a dumping ground. Yes, it was a major dumping ground for everything. In the day before Imes Nature Center and the organization rescued it, cleaned it up and made it one of the feature attractions of the stupendous Imes Nature Center today. But that old industrial site was a dumping ground for many years for people in Knoxville to take their trash to. And old automobiles. I mean, I've read of them, pulling stolen cars from Mead's Quarry in the day, before it was cleaned up. And obviously, these cemeteries here in Westview, need cleaned up, because it is a disgrace. I mean, oh my. If the nuns who taught me in high school saw this cemetery today, I tell you, they would be so angry and so insulted. This is, you know, it's just abominable. What's been done here? Here you go. Well, this seems the largest part of the dump here at Longview. Yeah. And there's no gate here on the road in here, so I guess, you know, the neighbors are not, you know, they're obeying the chain gate up the hill, and they're just pulling in here to drop off whatever trash they have here. Didn't see any bones of old dead people. You know, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's, well, we couldn't afford a burial for Grandma. You know, it's like, you know, her Social Security check won't, you know, won't pay for her funeral, but we wanted her in an historic cemetery here in Knoxville, so we threw her bones in with the front end of Grandpa's car. Yeah, and this has yet to be developed, I guess, for the continuation of the Longview Cemetery here. Nice. It's so you can tear up the ground here with the pickup trucks and 4x4s, and after dumping whatever you need here at the community cemetery. Oh my, nice. All right, that's it. I mean, that's no Ruth Cobb Brice. Oh, look, that's kind of interesting. I saw that coming up. Doesn't that look like memorials? Roadside memorials? You know? That if your car is slow enough, or God forbid you should get out of it and walk, you might see across America. Kind of roadside memorials to victims of car accidents. It's kind of, and notice the stones, the stone landscaping makes all the graves there sort of stand out. It almost looks like, sadly, ironically, roadside memorials here in this historic cemetery district in Westfield.